What you doing, other nerds? I'm the AC, and on November 22nd, the third season of The Dragon Prince came out. It's been a little over a week, but I finally got to watch all of it. And if you haven't watched it yet, here's just my quick little review about it. It was a great season that kept up the spirit of the first two seasons. And it had a nice, slow little build up with just enough action throughout to, keep it entertaining and have that heart pounding, what's going to happen moments. And some of them are pretty brutal. Um, it's pretty predictable, though, kind of what happens. Nothing really caught me by surprise once it did happen. But it's definitely worth watching. It still has its humor. It develops characters further, and then it's just finishes in another way that just wants you to have another season and to see where that's going to come. So that's a very vague, short review of that. But if you haven't seen it, you should, because what I'm going to talk about next is just the things I like from each episode. And unlike usual, I wrote my things down on a little list. Uh, I'll do a little bit from each episode because I enjoy this series enough to talk more in depth about it than I have other stuff. But also, if you stick through to after this little list of stuff, I also have a nice little personal story that had to do with the cast of The Dragon Prince. But yeah, so let me begin. First off, so episode 1 starts with Sol Reagan, and he's pretty much just a dick. Like, he's blinded, it was pretty much his fault, and he's just angry. But it seemed like, even though he seemed like he hates humans, it really is just black, dark magic he hates, because he's kind of not too threatening at Callum until he, smelled or felt, however he senses dark magic. That's when he's like, yeah, no, I'm going to kill you. So they do that whole thing, typical whatever, and then they just dupe him and get him stuck. It was a okay, fine sequence. A good way to start the season off. The other thing that happens in this episode is Amaya blows the breach. Um, they're wanting to close it off because they don't want anyone to get through. They also, I guess, don't want to get through, whatever. And Maya goes off, going to sacrifice herself and her horse, I guess. That's the thing I was worrying about. It's like, oh no, she's taking her horse down with her. She goes, gets in another fight with the uh, Sunfire Elf that she keeps fighting with. And then, right before she's about to blow it, she smacks her horse to get a run of safety. I was like, yay, horse! Because, um, but then she blows it, and it turned out to be fine anyways. But then I think about the timing of the explosion, and I was like, she could have almost killed that horse. I don't know. I like animals, so I was really wanting to see what happens to that horse. And luckily, it survived. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I had for the first episode. It was a good season premiere. It gets you started and like picking you back up from where it left off and showing you where it's about to go. Episode 2, Ezra is back. He is king, and during the episode, he pretty much says he's not going to make the same mistake as his father. He's wanting to be a peaceful king. He wants to stop all this war because continuing violence and revenge and all this stuff just leads to more, and which is something you see in every story ever, and it's pretty much he's right. And you see this theme run throughout the rest of the season. The best part of this episode and the whole Ezra being king is the guards just have the cheesiest humor that is still like funny, but it's like if you're watching just a super cheesy skit, and I was fine with it. It's pretty much only this episode that they are like this, but it was enough. It was funny. It's amusing because their king is a kid, so they're going to have this kiddish humor around him because they were around before he was king. Now he is. It's what would happen. Then the only other thing in this episode that really caught my attention is they Callan and Rayla are in Zadia now. They're in this nice flowery place, and there's a certain flower I really like called the Mellow Daisy, a nice musical flower. And then later they find like fart flowers, so gotta keep that humor and fart jokes in there somehow. Episode 3. Ezra finally tells about his journey. There's a visiting prince, Kasif, almost forgot his name, and pretty much he either doesn't believe the story or he doesn't care. That's pretty much what the people are like. They don't really show anybody being like, you know what, you're right. There's not really anyone agreeing and relating to Ezra's story. I feel like even the people standing by him should express a little bit of. Um, but oh well. And then something a lot of people is looking forward to. I know is you get to see in the first 2 seasons Rayla have a human disguise. Finally, you get to see Callum's. What for some reason he picks an Earthbound elf, which I don't know if he ever even saw one to begin with or if he made it up. But he picks an Earthbound elf disguise. It's just as funny as Rayla's. Unfortunately, it's not as useful, and it's the only other elf, or 2 elves eventually, that see him. Pretty much, it's obvious because he just uses branches as ears, or antlers, whatever he's supposed to be. And then Rayla is a ghost to her people, meaning since they thought she abandoned her mission, um, they pretty much made it to where she can't be part of the village anymore. People can't see her, and whenever she looks at them, she doesn't see their facial features. But it does show that for some reason, in this big fountain, these nice little flowers, and that's how they knew, because hers was the only one still there. But at the end, near the end, it shows one is just kind of halfway floating, halfway in the water. So hopefully we'll see that get resolved in the next season because it didn't in this one. I mean, you pretty much know who it is. The only other thing, Amaya's prisoner. She got captured by the Sunfire Elves. Took her prisoner. Of course, they're not too bad to her. She's more being just stubborn than they are just treating her. Because, she saves the Sunfire Elves she was fighting, so, they have respect for each other. Season 4. My biggest thing is they meet this elf who's going to help them get across this black desert with deadly snakes, which the Soulfang snakes, I didn't remember until I watched a couple of the first season episodes. The Soulfang snakes were also in the first season when Varian uses a 2-headed one. So that was neat that they remembered and brought those back. But with Nyx, she has a staff, she has 2 little things on it. Callum pulls one out, and he makes a boomerang reference to Sokka because, same voice actor. That was cool. And I was like, oh, cool. Is he going to steal one of these or the staff or use this anyway? But yeah, I'm mainly looking forward to see if this boomerang comes back in the rest of the series since it doesn't in the season. And it makes sense for Callum to use a boomerang because, he has the whole, storm, sky arcanum, so it can control wind, which a boomerang fits perfectly into. But onto the rest of the episode. They meet Nyx, who obviously from the beginning of the episode is just there to steal Zim. So that's no surprise when she actually does. The biggest surprise for this episode, though, is Rayla kisses Callum. Oh, isn't that so sweet? And the awkward moment that comes from it. Callum freaks out because that's always what happens in something like this. And it's awkward, but it's fine. Whatever. That's just always how romance blossoms in shows like this. Going back to Ezra and what he's having to deal with, though, there's an ultimatum given, and it's pretty much a trick from the very beginning, just to get Ezra off the throne and Varian on the throne, and of course that's exactly what happens. Saw that coming too. It's the whole like we're gonna spare them, and then they always come back to bite you in the ass. Moving on to season 5, they talk about a weird rule they have when a king is dethroned and who's supposed to take power. So apparently, the weird law is only orphans can take the throne and start like a new royal bloodline. Like, if I remember correctly, that's what it is. If I'm wrong, correct me or whatever. I'm pretty sure that I was like, that's a weird thing, I guess. But it was also obviously those couple people that were arguing don't want Varen on the throne because they're the smart ones. Okay. So the other thing is this episode is pretty. The first more eye-opening episode of the season where things start really rolling because Soren is starting to wisen up. Like, he's known his dad is like not a good guy. For some reason, Claudia is not. I don't know what her deal is. She's too loyal to her dad for some reason. I thought it was going to be the opposite around. I thought Soren would be blindly loyal and Claudia wouldn't be. So, I don't know. There's a quote, just a random reference that I heard in here. I was like, that sounds familiar. And it's pretty funny. It's Soul Fangs. Why does it have to be Soul Fangs? If you know the quote, you know where it comes from. And then, in reaction to the episode prior, Callum kisses Rayla back. Finally. It's like, oh. So, yeah, they're pretty much an actual couple at this point. Who knew? I bet nobody ever saw that coming, of course. But it's still sweet regardless. So, whatever. Episode 6. Moving on. The Dragon King apparently was named Thunder by the people who killed it because they never actually learned his real name, Avizendum. And I don't blame him because that's a weird name. It sounds like something weird I would name something. But yeah, I mean, the whole reason they go and kill him is to get revenge for that dragon killing Queen Sarai. Of course, it was probably also just a trick and a way of manipulate for Varen to go and do whatever he wanted in Zandia. And then, you know, in no time at all, Ezra was dethroned. Soren snuck him out. So in this episode, Ezra somehow reunites with Callum and Rayla. Just like that. Wasn't hard at all, except for poor Fifi. It was pretty hard because it dies. But it's a moon phoenix, so as phoenix do, they die only to be reborn from themselves. So no actual feelings need to be shed. But episode 7. Viren apparently has no idea what he's actually doing, and he has no plan. Which Soren comes to find out. Now, I guess Viren also realizes. So his little bug pal has Soren named him, gives them an idea. And that idea is to go attack the Sunfire Elves. Manipulates them, ends up killing the queen, stealing their power, but gives Amaya and the other elf, what was her name? Whatever. Names aren't important. It gives them a way to escape in the army. But then Viren uses that power to change almost the entire army into monsters, including the Prince Kosov, and except for Claudia and the other random advisor-like guy, who I don't know his name or if he has one. But this is the last straw for Soren. He finally leaves. He abandons his dad. Claudia won't go with him. And it's a big step for Soren's character. And it's probably like the final moment where I really started liking Soren. Just to see like he's finally great. But there's more. That's not just the only time. He has more moments. Soren was really good in this season overall. Going right along. Random savings. This is where action's picking up. This is where people are conveniently showing up. It's just the whole trope of coming in at last second and save people. You see it all the time. I don't know why it's always the last second, but no, whatever. Episode 8. Callum uses the moon opal to see into the past of when the Dragon Prince's egg was originally stolen, because Rayla was upset that everyone thinks her family, her parents, abandoned the mission, and it turns out they were the only ones who actually stayed. So I guess pretty much what happened is after Viren beat them, Rayla's mom convinces him to take that egg instead of destroying it, and then Viren, I assume, puts him in his little necklace like a thing, whatever thing he traps elves in. Just a little hint of what you think. And he mentions this later. He's like, I'll be glad to add another moon elf to my collection when he's talking to Rayla in the last episode. Which brings us to the season finale, the final fight. So, more convenient backup arrives with a horde of dragons that accidentally strengthens Viren's army. Of course. And then, not even that, they're easily taken down. Kosov himself just goes, wraps a chain around Dragon's neck in mid-flight and drags it to the ground. It's like, the fuck, I don't know. It's cool. It's a lot of cool action. But then, Kosov's about to, kill Column, whatever. And then more convenient backup shows up. See what I'm talking about with the backup? And this one is the most confusing, because it's the Duran kingdom with the little girl queen Anya, and with her archers, and she saves Callum from a long distance with a bow, shooting 3 arrows in a Kosov, which is cool. It's just also like, that is so convenient. I was wondering what she was doing this whole time, but I didn't think they would show up pretty much right after. So my only thinking is they must have been just like trailing and waiting to see like what Viren's army is. It's like, what else? It doesn't make any sense. This is, oh well, you gotta look past stuff like that. It's just a cool big battle scene, whatever. But man, I don't know. Then there's a whole bunch of other little things. Bait saves Rayla. Callum has to save Rayla again. Rayla, she's not doing too great in this episode, actually. But the cool thing she does, she tackles Viren off the tower while he's trying to absorb Zim's power. They fall. Callum finally figures out how to grow wings. Random. It's cool. But he saves Rayla. He tells her he loves her, and blah 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 blah. And that's it. The fighting's over. Dragon Queen wakes up. And it's just a nice moment. And you're like, okay, well, Viren isn't dead. There's no way Viren is dead. That was too easy. It doesn't show him die, and of course, apparently he did die. It didn't show it, but at the very end, it shows Claudia, even more her hair white because she's dumb and keeps using the magic, even though Soren tells her she can stop. He noticed her changing. She was like, didn't care. Anyways, she apparently Viren did die from the fall, and Claudia used some kind of intense magic to bring him back. But that's not the only thing. The um, little bug guy show is now in a big bug cocoon. Uh, so this brings us to what's going to happen in the next season. I mean, there needs to be a next season, right? You can't leave off there. Here's my predictions. Um, of course, it's all going to be focused on the bug guy, whatever his name is. It's like some weird long name that starts with an A, Avaros or something like that. So that's going to be the conflict. He's going to get too much power. Everyone's going to fight him. Of course, Claudia and Viren are probably going to join on the good side because that's always what happens. But here's where it gets a little more specific in my predictions. I feel like Viren is probably going to die, and it's probably going to be to protect his own children. And that's about all the predictions I have for now. But yeah, that's that is it. That's a whole lot of just me rambling on about just a whole lot of stuff I thought about during these 9 episodes of the season. Thanks for sticking along with that. I think you deserve a nice little story. So, earlier this year at Hawaii Comic Con, the cast of The Dragon Prince was coming. It was pretty much the whole main cast. And I didn't watch the show until I learned about that. And then while I was in the Philippines, I just downloaded the 2 seasons on my phone and watched them while I was over there when I had free time. And I actually really enjoyed the show. I like how it still has that similar feel to Avatar: Last Airbender, and same voice actor, Sokka Takala. And when I was at Comic Con, the cast was cool. They were enjoyable, and then it was just somebody, the guy who voices Viren, Jason Simpson. Somebody brings up the fact that he can sing, and somebody wants him to, and we're like, oh yeah, do that. And he's like, okay, trying to think of what he's going to sing. And he's like, okay, was it anybody's birthday? Well, I was particularly excited for this Honolulu Comic Con because it was the day after my birthday. And after a kind of awkward silence, I was just like, mine was yesterday. So, Jason Simpson, he just eye contact with me, sings happy birthday to me. It was lovely. I enjoyed it. It was kind of weird too, but in the middle of the panel, just to me, because I'm a weirdo who kind of sits isolated anyways, if possible, so everyone can focus in on me, he sings happy birthday to me. And it was awesome. It was one of the coolest experiences really ever. And it was my first time at this Comic Con. So it was great. But that's my story. It's always funny when I think of it, getting sung to by a voice actor in the middle of a panel. It's like, just who else gets to have that experience? I feel special. Aww. But yeah, that's my story. That's what you get for listening to the random rambling. But thanks, sincerely. Have you watched any of The Dragon Prince? Are you caught up in seeing the 3rd season? Are you already looking forward to the 4th? Is there any big moments you like that I missed? Were there things I said that you didn't like or were wrong because I'm trying to remember a lot of details? Just let me know. I think you should watch Dragon Prince if you haven't. Especially if you like Avatar: Last Airbender, you definitely should. It's great. Still has that same sense of humor. The heart animation's a little different, but still the same art style, kind of. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'm the AC. Thank you for watching.